Good evening. Whoa, that's the wrong place. I'm right here. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Monday. It's time for Mondays with Monte. I am Montgomery, and today I'm going to be talking about supports. Now, support is a very important role, and it's also a very unpopular role. Generally speaking, you do not see big fights in pre-game chat over supports. You don't see too many people saying, support or AFK, or support or feed, because either they're just joking, or they're not serious. I think maybe in the entire history of my League of Legends career, I've seen one honest-to-goodness fight over the support role. Every other time when you have, on those rare occasions, two people who want to play support in your game, one of them's usually more than happy to do something else for a change. So, supports are unpopular, and it's a little understandable why. Because generally speaking, all of the glory, all of the pentakills, all the really cool items, all of that stuff doesn't go to the support. It goes to the AD carry, it goes to the AP carry, the top lane, even the jungler gets more awesome stuff than the support. The support generally doesn't have the flashiest abilities. They generally don't get to show up on those mad play reels. They just kind of are there. And they're important, but they kind of go unnoticed. So if you're one of those people that loves to be out there in the spotlight, generally you don't want to be playing support. And it turns out that for very similar reasons to why roles like tank and healer are unpopular in MMORPGs, supports are unpopular in League of Legends. But as unpopular as they may be, knowing how to play support is an important skill, because guess what? Because it's unpopular, you're going to get stuck with the role at some point. And it's a lot better to know what the heck you're doing than to throw up your hands in the air and just be like, no, I don't want to do this. No, and just rage and lose the game. Not the best. And this is not show number 1. That is actually a title mishap that I did not notice until you brought my attention to it. This is actually Mondays with Monte number 10. Whoopsie. Anyway, who cares about that? Titles, a rose by any other name smells just as sweet. It's the only bit of Shakespeare I know. In any case, we're learning about supports today. So whether you are a person who is super enthusiastic about playing support, or if you're one of those person that the moment you get stuck with the role, it's just like, I have to support. We're going to learn about supports today. Now, there's a very common misconception about the support role that I would like to throw out the window to get rid of, because it's not true. And that is that playing support is easy. Playing support is not easy. It's actually just as hard as every other role in the game, possibly harder in certain circumstances. And this whole idea that supports are super easy and brain dead kind of role, and God, why would anybody want to play that, is because a long time ago, it was. Way back in the day, to play support, you basically picked a champion with sustain, Soraka, Taric, Alistar, one of them, and you just kind of sat in the lane and you healed whoever was there. And you just healed them, and then you healed them, and you healed them. And you just were kind of this like weird like wallflower fixture behind by the tower or whatever, and you just kind of spammed heals. And then you won your lane. And the funny thing about this was that it was super imbalanced. Like, there was a point where the win rates on these supports were in excess of 70%. Like, on average, Riot actually released statistics, and it was like 70% win rates or more on Soraka and Alistar and all of them, simply because you could sit in the back and heal forever. And Riot was like, that needs a nerf. Because you could just take whoever was the worst player in your group of 5 or whatever, throw them in support role, tell them, play Soraka. They'd play Soraka, you'd win. Easy peasy, no problem. And that got nerfed. So today, it's no longer like that. That's where the whole idea that supports are easy came from, and it's utterly and completely wrong, because today, in order to play support, today you have to be aggressive. You have to be in the face of your opponents, making space, and this is the really important part, making space for your carry so they can do what they need to do. And that's not easy, Because, I mean, this goes all the way back to things like Zones of Control, which I talked about 2 weeks ago. That's a great show. You should watch it. It's in the archive. I uploaded it today. It's about Zones of Control. It's about understanding the way your opponents work. It's about judging how healthy you are, what kind of item advantages there are. It's complicated, and it's not easy, and a lot of people have trouble with it. They might get good at one particular support and get used to that playstyle, but then they try another one, and it's a slightly different playstyle. They aggress in different ways. They've got different types of skill shots. Lulu's all about poking with that glitter lance. What's Leona about? Leona's about hooking onto them and just beating the snot out of them with help from your carry. Different playstyles. It gets complicated. And on top of that, you've got like an infinite number of duo combinations you can go up against. I have not done the permutations and combinations of how many different pairs of champions you can put together out of 109, but it's a lot. And that's a lot harder to learn than, oh, I'm Annie mid. There's only so many individual other champions I can go against. So this is a tough role, and we're going to focus a lot on the early laning phase. We're going to focus on the laning phase because that's the most critical time for the support. That's when they have the most influence during the game, believe it or not, because at that point, if you can win your lane as a support, you're beating the snot out of not one, but two opponents. Not one, but two. And if you can beat two of the enemy team, they're down 2 people. I mean, what are they going to do? Their support's worthless. Their AD is worthless. You and your AD are on fire. You're going to beat the snot out of them. You're going to win. And that's what we're going to try to teach you how to do today. And don't be too upset if you cannot, at the end of the show, land 100% of your blitz hooks, your Leona E's, your Thresh hooks, if your Janna play is not the most amazing in the world, because, like everything else that's hard, it takes time to learn. It's not you are going to overnight be able to do, but there are a few simple things that you can learn to do that are very helpful. And one of the first is don't rely on the bushes too much. This is actually a very common problem amongst a lot of mid-tier support players, is there's those really nice bushes along the side of the map, which are absolutely fantastic for champions like Blitzcrank, like Leona, like Thresh, who have these great skill shots they want to fling out of there and just catch you and bring you into trouble, because your opponents can't see you, they don't know what you're up to, they can't attack you. It's a great, safe little place. You feel all warm and cozy there, and then the enemy puts a ward down. And all of a sudden, that doesn't exist anymore. And this thing that you've been relying on, that's been your rock and foundation of your support play, is completely meaningless, and you have no idea what to do. This happens to a lot of players. I've noticed it a lot as I've been playing since Season 3 started. And it's something that you need to be able to correct. And it's hard because once you're out of that nice, safe, cozy brush, you have to deal with the fact that you can get attacked, you can take damage, you can overextend and be hurt, the creeps can beat the snot out of you. All of that stuff starts happening. That's difficult to learn, but it's necessary because the best supports, if you put a ward in their brush, they're like, well, I guess I don't get to use the brush, and then they just beat the snot out of you anyway. Because it's like, I don't need brush to land a blitz hook. I can do crazy stuff because I'm Blitzcrank. The other thing you have to do is remember to ward. Warding is really important. This is something that, if nothing else, MissQ is really awesome at. I always appreciate looking in the post-game stats, looking on ELO buff, and seeing that our team has like 3 times as many wards put down as theirs, because MissQ is a champion, always running around, always putting wards down, because vision helps you win the lane, because it prevents you from getting absolutely murdered by any roaming mids or ganks from the jungler. It's always, always good to have vision, to feel safe, to know, hey, I can push up right now and do nasty things to them. So, those are two important points to keep in mind. Don't rely on the brush. Wards. Wards, wards, wards. This show might as well be titled, AKA, How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Ward. Those of you who have seen the movie I just referenced, you are probably old. So, without further ado, we are coming into this first game. I might have actually glitched LOL replay. Sometimes if you pause right when the game starts, it freezes. Is it going to work? It's going to work. It's loaded everything. And so we have 2 fairly regular teams. We're not going to spend too much time looking at them, but I am playing Thresh. Yes, I am actually playing support in this game. You know me as normally the crazy guy who duo queues as AD with MissQ. Instead, today I am playing a support. And I'm starting with fairly regular support items. I actually have masteries that go deep into defense, so I don't have the wealth mastery, which allows my opponent, this Nunu, to pick up a vision ward when I could not. Otherwise, our builds are fairly similar. He's got a mana potion, I don't. We both have wards. I've got a rejuvenation bead, he's got a fairy charm. And this Nunu's plan is pretty simple. This Nunu is going to sit in a bush and he's going to spam Blood Boil on his Vayne. I'm going to sit in a bush and I'm going to throw hooks out and hope to kill Vayne. And it's the first minute. You see there's some pretty standard little mess here. I grab a Tryndamere. We managed to make him use his ghost. He gets away. Cho took his Q, tried to catch Tryndamere, failed. Nunu flashed. Just your typical tit for tat at the start of a game. No biggie. They're going to recall and heal. I'm going to recall and heal. Lux is going to harass me. Little cheeky Lux. Don't appreciate that. But I'm going to recall. And otherwise, the game's going to go as normal. Cho'Gath did take his Q first. That is a great teamwork choice. Maybe we could have caught Tryndamere if he'd aimed it a little better. Whatever, he tried to take one for the team there. It's a lot harder to clear the jungle at level 1 with Rupture versus Vorpal spikes, but you know what? Our team's awesome. They're going to help out this Cho'Gath anyway. He's going to get what he needs to get clear, and I'm just going to be a little jerk and I'm going to ignore him. Instead, I'm actually going to disable vision of the opponents because I want you guys to see what I see in order to help you better think about what I'm thinking, to see my thought process. So I skipped out and helping here because I want to rush into, not there, but this bush here, so that I can see what's going on, see the enemies when they come in, what direction they come from, and try to glean some information from that. So here I am in this bush. Well, you know, a little dangerous. They were to try to think, oh, there must be a thresh in this bush. We'll come all the way around like this. That'd be a little crazy. There's no reason to think I'd be in here. But I see that this Nunu is actually low on health. I'm going to pause. What do I know about him? Well, he's low on health, and if I look at the stats on the board, I can see that both him and Vayne have killed creeps. So I'm going to assume that they've killed the golems. That's not actually the case, but that's my assumption here. And so they're going to get a fast level 2. And I'm going to be a little bit of a jerk and throw an auto attack in there. And now I see that they have Blood Boil and Tumble. And that's really important information to me, because as I slow the game down, because I have a lot to talk about and I need to slow it down so that things don't get ahead of me here. Because I know the abilities they have, I know that Vayne can't shove me into a wall, I know that I can't get snowballed, and I know that I'm therefore actually pretty fairly safe at this point, because Vayne has to tumble forward into me to make things happen. Nunu has actually used his pink ward here. That's great for me, because I've only used my Explorer ward. I don't know where he put his, but I do know that he just blew a pink ward to kill a ward that was only going to last 1 minute. Anyway, I unfortunately missed my hook like a derp. Not much I can do about that. And to my great surprise, we're actually going to hit level 2 before they do. There's a ward right in here that I saw Nunu put down because there's a little flashy little graphic here. It's kind of hard to see sometimes. It's subtle. But, nevertheless, I know that both of these bushes are warded. Is that going to stop me? Is that going to stop me as a thresh? Nope, because I don't care about bushes. I mean, bushes are nice. They're really great when the enemy doesn't ward them. But I don't need warded, I don't need these bushes. I don't need that unknown in order to catch people. I'm Thresh, I can auto-attack, I can support my carry, I can do things that are helpful without having to sit in a bush praying that they move in a bad way and I can catch them with a hook. So as you can see, I'm generally keeping parity with my carry. If you were to draw football field lines down this lane, I would never be more than 5 or 10 yards apart from Caitlyn. And the reason for that is because that allows you to be close enough so that if anything happens to them or if anything happens to you, you can help each other. It's just genuinely really good to stay close enough that if something happens, you can help each other. Because sometimes they'll blow some CC on you, the support, and because your carry's right there, you can beat the crap out of them. Another thing you might have noticed me doing is I'm actually coming up here to ward right about 3 minutes and 20 seconds. That's usually when the jungler makes an appearance somewhere. Unfortunately, right as I warded, he made his appearance up here, attacking the Cho'Gath. So if I had seen that just a hair faster, I might have held on to the ward because, I don't need it right now. Tryndamere's all the way up here. But instead I used the ward. Whatever, I still have 2 wards. I haven't had to use them because Nunu has not gotten to camp in any bushes. And I've been laying on the harass on this Vayne along with Caitlyn. And if you've noticed, if you've been paying a little bit of attention and you're really sharp, you'll see that I actually haven't thrown out that many hooks. And this is a very calculated move on my part, because one of the things you'll see a lot of lower tier players do is they will be Blitz or Leona or Thresh or somebody with a skill shot CC ability, and they will throw it out all the frickin' time. They'll just be like, anytime there's the slightest chance that they might land it, they're throwing it out there. And that's a problem for a couple reasons. First of all, it really shows off when you want to hook. If you, it's like all those anime and martial arts movies where the opponent uses his super special move all the frickin' time, and eventually the hero figures it out and can defeat it every single time. It's the same sort of thing. If you constantly use your hook in the exact same way all the time, even players that generally aren't very perceptive, that you might laugh at, oh man, this person is so bad at the start of a game, they'll figure out, just through simple observation, when it is that you like throwing your big skill shot. They'll know that when you move in this way and try things this way, that's when you're going to throw it, and they'll be ready to dodge. When you walk into range for a hook, like I am right now, and then just don't do it until now, you make it a lot harder for them to figure out when and where to dodge. And because he dodged, and even though I didn't land the hook, he takes some extra harass because he had to do some crazy stuff to not get hooked. This sort of psychological game is really important in an aggressive support, because if you always function exactly the same way, unless you have a humongous range advantage or they're just really, really, really poorly off, you're just going to find that you cease being effective over time because your opponents adapt to what you're doing. So if we were to rewind a bit, we'd see that Vayne had to recall because we got her down to less than 2 bars of health, and as a result we pushed the wave. We'd actually just reset the wave, which would normally have been a good time to zone. Because Vayne had to go back, we instead pushed. And Vayne made the strange mistake of stepping on a trap for no reason, which allows me to land a maximum range hook. I get her pulled in, Caitlyn throws her Q, misses it a little bit, but Vayne just came back to lane after being forced out of the lane, and she's already at half health. And this is the worst thing possible for an AD carry. You've just gotten back to lane, you're already behind. This Vayne is already 11 creep score behind, that's about 2 waves. She just got back to lane, it's like this is her opportunity to make things happen. She's got a longsword, Caitlyn does not. She's got a potion, Caitlyn does not. If they can make something happen, they can get us on the ropes. But instead, she steps on a trap, I hook her in, and all of a sudden she's at half health, and they're again in a really, really poor position. I'm being threshed. I'm like, oh, there's creeps in the way, I can't hook you. I'll just auto-attack. And Caitlyn gets the kill. Why? Well, she had her passive up. And so Vayne has just come back to lane, and now she's actually dead. And that's even worse. And this is kind of what being an aggressive support is all about. If you make space for your carry to do cool things, all of a sudden your opponent is just, you can just beat the snot out of them. It really helps when you've got an opponent, you've got a support like me who can do this auto attack harass, and it really helps when Nunu makes the weird decision to max Blood Boil first. Now in a lot of lanes, maxing Blood Boil makes a lot of sense. I'm going to speed things up a little bit here. But in this lane, it does not. And the reason it makes no sense here is because Caitlyn has range on Vayne. If Nunu was the one with Caitlyn, and I was the one with Vayne, maxing Blood Boil would make a lot of sense, because it would allow his Caitlyn to harass my Vayne pretty much with impunity, because Caitlyn could run into range and start attacking Vayne, and before Vayne could close the distance, Caitlyn could just back up, make things happen. We're not going to tower dive here, that'd be a little dangerous now that Vayne's back, but in general, because he's maxing Blood Boil first with Vayne, that means his snowballs don't do any damage whatsoever, and he himself basically poses no threat to either me or to Caitlyn. If he snowballs us, we take what? 85 damage minus magic resist? Not a whole lot there. That's not very helpful. I mean, it does slow attack speed and movement speed by a bit, but it's not significant enough to really give him any presence. And what he should be doing is he should be trying to snowball me or Caitlyn all the frickin' time to make room for Vayne. If he can do that, Vayne can get some creep score, Vayne can be relevant, and Vayne can possibly help him out when they hit level 6 and they want to make something happen. A Nunu Vayne combo is scary, even with just rank 1 Blood Boil. You get the slowdown on the enemy carry, you get the Blood Boil on your carry, you start off with that gigantic zone of freezing death that is Nunu's ultimate, and things can go pretty darn well. But instead, this poor Vayne has a Nunu who's maxing Blood Boil. And while that'll be really fun for the mid-game fights, right now, that's not really helping this Vayne all that much. This Vayne is still level 3. Caitlyn and myself are level 5. Vayne just now hit level 4. She has a chance now to catch up on creep score a little bit, but let's look at where things stand. Vayne here has a longsword and a Doran's Blade. Caitlyn has a BF sword and a Doran's Blade. If that doesn't spell uh-oh for you, if you're this Vayne, you need to learn how to spell. She's desperately trying to catch up. She's got 20 creep score behind, closing that a little bit now that Caitlyn's not here, but we'll be back very, very shortly, and that's going to be problematic for them because we're still ahead of them in levels. Nunu, by virtue of having been able to hang around whenever Vayne was dead, is actually level 5, but still Vayne is a level behind, and she's also like 35 attack damage behind. That's not particularly good for her. Even as I go off to ward, she gets in a fight with Caitlyn, and what happens? Well, Vayne took half her health and damage, Caitlyn took a third of her health and damage, Nunu took a fourth of his health and damage, and now I'm back. And this is really rough for Vayne. I mean, again, look, she's half health again. You've got a scary support like Thresh here who can hook, who can make things nasty. And if you look, I'm hanging out here, even though this bush might be warded again. Is it warded again? Yep, it's warded again. But because I'm keeping on this side of the creeps a lot, because I'm standing where I have angles of attack, if Vayne tries to come forward to get at these creeps, it's very, very easy for me to just move forward and block her path to the creeps. And so Vayne is zoned out, she can't get to these creeps, and because we have this advantage, I'm helping Caitlyn extend it. My presence here makes it so that Vayne has to be very, very careful with her approach. And if you notice, she's waiting until there's a creep wave coming in, and because these creeps are here, she doesn't have to worry about being hooked. These creeps provide a barrier that I have to get around to hook her. That's all well and good, though, because I'm just going to go right past it. Unfortunately, I miss my hook because I am terrible at this game, but that's okay. If I'd aimed it a little better, there was not a whole lot Vayne could have done except to flash out of it. I didn't blow her flash in that case, which is sad, but I did succeed in one thing, and what I succeeded in doing was keeping Vayne away from the creeps again. Where's Vayne? She's somewhere over here by this tower. Where's our jungler? Well, he's over there in the bush up here. Where's Vayne? Trying to find an angle in. Is there an angle in? Not really, because the moment I come out this way, I can throw a hook and possibly get her. The creeps are pushing to the tower anyway. She need not risk anything. Unfortunately, Cho'Gath is not going to take the lantern and try to make a gank happen because they're not coming out, because we have them totally pinned to their tower. And where's Tryndamere been all this time? Well, he's generally been up here making things happen, so he's not come down to make anything happen. If he was making his presence known down here, I would probably have needed to ward Dragon, but every time I look for him, he and Lux are making things happen top. Not a big deal for us down bottom. I'm taking full advantage of the leeway I am being given in order to make things happen. Now, Nunu was very, very smart right there. As I was walking away, and most importantly, walking up this way, he steps on the trap. He knows the creeps are in the way. He knows I can't hook them. That was actually a very smart play from Nunu, getting that trap out of the way, giving Vayne a little bit more mobility. Unfortunately, she's taking Qs and auto attacks to the face. I do get the hook onto Nunu because I'm way within my maximum range for that. I pull him in, he takes a crap ton of damage, and guess who's level 6? Caitlyn's level 6. She gets the shot off. I don't know if Vayne actually wanted to take that hit because she only has 300 health, and Caitlyn's ultimate does 405. I don't think Vayne actually had the armor to survive that if it had come to that. I will actually check very quickly. Where is that Vayne? She's right here. Actually, she might have survived it. She's got 50 armor. She's got 50 armor. That's pretty significant. In any case, coming back to what's going on here. So we've actually chased Vayne out again. Nunu's dead. She has no health, and the gap has increased. What's the difference between these two? Oh, well, the difference right now is about a BF sword's worth of gold. That's a lost lane right there. It's really hard to come back from that. Even when you're somebody like Vayne, you have to really plan around having a crazy good late game, because at this point you're not going to have that good of a mid game. The enemy, even if they don't have a big super mega steroid like Caitlyn, doesn't have really one. She's got her passive. She's going to just absolutely wreck faces because she is so far ahead. So we take out that turret. We've pressured really hard, and we took this turret. It's about 10 minutes in the game. That's kind of early, but it's to our advantage to do so. Tryndamere is still mucking around top. He is actually looking like he's going to catch this Yi out. We're not too concerned about all this nonsense up here. I'm not a Soraka. I don't need to cast the heal. Black Paladin 2 gets the kill on Lux. Is he going to escape Tryndamere? I don't know. Who cares? Vayne is still farming. She's trying to catch up. She's 40 creep score behind. She's 2 kills behind. She's got boots 2. Caitlyn has BF sword and the pickaxe. Boots 2 and longsword versus BF sword and pickaxe. That's kind of in favor of Caitlyn. Especially because, what's this Nunu doing? This Nunu is still maxing Blood Boil. He has absolutely no presence. And this is kind of what happens when you don't have presence in a lane. When you don't have presence, your carry suffers. This could have been an Ezreal, this could have been a Varus, this could have been an Ashe, this could have been a lot of different carries. The fact that it's Vayne certainly does not help, but because this Nunu has no presence, we're just walking all over them. Just completely stomping them. Caitlyn arrives back in lane. She's getting the creep score. I throw down the lantern. The snowball does absolutely no damage to Caitlyn because the lantern is OP. 85 damage does not compare to a lantern that shields for hundreds. And we chase them off. I'm collecting souls. I've got 44 souls right now. That's actually very, very good. For like 40 souls is doing really well. 40 souls per 10 minutes, which is about where we are. That's really strong. Actually, at 44, I catch this Nunu out. Here comes Lux. They're coming in, but guess what? We dodged the ultimate. Somehow, this Lux ultimate does not hit anybody, and we actually come out of that very, very well. Look what happened to Nunu and Vayne again. They have absolutely no health. We're at half a piece, even though I just took that Lux E for no good reason. And, oh my goodness, that almost killed Vayne. She actually had less than 10 health after that, but we're retreating because Tryndamere showed his face, was going to come down this path and try to get at us, but I warded red buff because we were pushing up. And warding red buff gives us a lot of vision, a lot of good information for pushing up in the face. This bush, I'm trying to find out if it's warded, and guess what? It is. I'm going to get the hell out of there, and I actually just crashed the game. This is a bug with replays right now. I'm going to have to reload this right away. If you mouse over Thresh's Lantern in spectator mode, you crash spectator mode. Isn't that fantastic? Absolutely fantastic. That's one. Thankfully, we are 3/4 of the way through this replay. We get to see I get to see this wonderful load screen. That's unfortunate. But what just happened there in that match was we actually had a 2v3 fight. 2v3 fight. It was Lux, Nunu, and Vayne versus just me and Caitlyn. What happened? We beat the snot out of them. Absolutely beat the snot out of them. We dodged the Nunu ultimate. We dodged the Lux ultimate by luck a little bit because that was a very close shave. Vayne didn't get to do anything because of exhaust. What happened at the end? We actually almost got a double kill. Not quite. I knocked Nunu the wrong way, actually, if you were to go back and watch that. It's unfortunate. A small mistake on my part. I was a little concerned about Tryndamere, who was coming down, but that's what happens. You sometimes, in the heat of the moment, make small mistakes. You have to practice to get this out. I'm still practicing a lot. So we're going to go back into this game. You may have seen this scene before. This is the start of the game. Screw the start of the game. We're going all the way over here. What's going on right now? This is actually before the turret happened. We got to go a little bit further to about here, I believe, is where we left off. Yes, Tryndamere is right there. We escaped. I'm going to go into this bush and take a bunch of extra damage for no good reason, because it's warded. I don't know that because I don't have supervision. I don't have oracles. That's how things go. There's all the damage I'm taking. There's the lantern that caused all the problems for us just a moment ago. Those crazy bugs. I don't know why that's happening. In any case, how far ahead are we right now? 50 creep score. Well, yeah, about almost 50 creep score. That's quite a bit. I gotta actually rearrange these things again. Goodness me. Bam, bam, ta-da. So we're 45 creep score ahead. We're 2 kills ahead. We're a tower ahead. 2 towers ahead. Nobody's taken dragon yet for no apparent reason. I don't know why the Cho'Gath isn't making something happen, because we are beating the snot out of this bottom lane. We are 2v3, pushing them back. The amazing lantern grab pulls Caitlyn all the way back here to safety. I'm recalling so that I can buy stuff. I've got some pretty typical stuff if you look at my items. I've got a Philosopher's Stone. I've got a Sight Stone. I'm starting to work on Aegis. That's the Emblem of Valor right there that gives some health regeneration aura. Eventually that'll become a very useful defensive aura. And what does poor Vayne have supporting her? Just a Philosopher's Stone. Nunu is warding. If we look, he has a ward in this bush. That caught me out earlier. That was problematic for me. That allows Vayne to pretty safely take these golems, help her get back in the game a little bit. Just a little bit. But again, look, level 1 Snowball. Did it do much? No, not really. Not really. Vayne desperately trying to farm back into the game, trying to close that creep score gap. Is that really going to help her? Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. And what's going to happen here? Well, she doesn't know I'm in this bush. And so she gets grabbed. This is a very nasty, nasty grab. There's the box, the legendary box. There's the lantern. There's the Caitlyn Q. And Vayne probably should have thought about the potential for somebody to be in the bush. Probably should have thought about that. So Vayne has died again, giving Caitlyn another kill. Vayne's not worth all that much right now, but this is a big advantage again for Caitlyn to pull ahead in terms of creep score. It's a big chance for me to pick up souls if I were not warding. I'm warding right now to give us some vision, to make sure that we're not going to get murdered by a roaming Lux, because I don't know where Lux is, or by roaming Tryndamere, because I don't know where Tryndamere is, or even a roaming Renekton, because I don't know where he is either. So I willingly sacrificed 2 souls right there. There were 4 right here. There were only 2 by the time I got back, but that sacrifice was helpful because it made sure that this Lux, the Tryndamere wherever he is, and the Renekton did not catch us. So here's Tryndamere at red. I'm a little cheeky. I get an auto attack off. He's going to chase me. I'm just going to eat him away. I don't really care. It's just a Tryndamere. Caitlyn is being pro, throwing some auto attacks over the walls. Tryndamere is half health by the time he actually reaches me. Slow things down just a bit. Vayne is giving chase. Tryndamere is coming in. There's another lantern that I do not want to mouse over. Did you see that snowball? Did it do damage? Not really. I throw the hook down on Nunu. What does Nunu do? Oh, look, it's a Master Yi. He flashes away. That's a smart Nunu. You do not want to stick around with the whole teams down here. We have a teleport in from Shen. We have a Cho'Gath here. They were thinking about helping us do Dragon. Instead, the whole team is here. Master Yi has just done a crap ton of damage to the entire enemy team. There's the Rupture. The Q is actually faster than the Rupture. Takes out Vayne. Vayne is gone. Master Yi's like, let's do this thing. Get the lantern down on him. And this is a good lantern because what does this lantern do? Well, it lets somebody who's smart, unlike that Shen, catch up. Here comes the Caitlyn. What does Caitlyn do? Caitlyn comes right in, throws the attacks down. Here's Shen trying to get a taunt off on nobody. Master Yi throws down his Alpha Strike and everybody dies. Where's Renekton? Well, Renekton's out here. He's like, oh well, guys. Good job. Dying. And we get to push turrets. And now it's the mid-game. The laning phase is basically over. We're pushing down turrets. We're thinking, oh, somebody should go back and stop Renekton. We'll probably get this turret too because Renekton's not going to stop us. It's the mid-game. Laning phase is over. And we beat the snot out of that Vayne Nunu. So obviously, I had certain advantages in that lane. I was against a Nunu who was maxing Blood Boil first. I was against a Vayne when I had a Caitlyn on my side. I'm freaking Thresh, who is totally not overpowered at all right now. Not at all. Really. Really. So I had some advantages in that lane. I'm playing basically the most overpowered support in the game. Of course I'm going to do well. Of course I'm going to be able to harass a Vayne. Of course I'm going to land some hooks and totally murder them. Of course. So we're going to look at something completely different. And keep in mind the things that allowed me to do well, outside of the fact that I was playing an overpowered champion. I warded. I did not rely on the bushes. I did not just throw my skill shots out willy-nilly. I saved them for appropriate times. I played some mind with my walking up to them and auto-attacking them instead of throwing out that chain, trying to grab them. No. Just got to think about it. Just be afraid that I'm going to do that. I'm not actually going to do it. I'm going to save myself some mana. That was my plan. It worked out pretty well. The Caitlyn who played with me was on the ball, always there, ready to do some damage. We're going to look at a different game here. If you look at this game, who am I playing this time? On the opposite end of the viable support spectrum, we have Karma, the indomitable Karma, who has basically no crowd control, who basically is kind of just, you pray that your teammate doesn't die. But what does she have? Well, she has harass. She has the hair of the Supremes. She's got fans of multiple kinds, like people who love her and fans, whatever. She is pretty cool. I like her as a champion, except that she's totally not viable. She has not been reworked. In fact, if I recall correctly, they actually stated that they had to start the rework over from scratch just a couple weeks ago. Like, literally just a couple weeks of like, yeah, we just had to start it all over again. Yup. So, I'm playing Karma. I'm playing the worst support in the game that's actually a support. Fun times ensue. We're going to limit vision again so that you can only see what I'm doing. There was the Blitz hook right there, and that's good for us because it means that Blitz can't grab us. I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to go into the bush. And here's a mistake you don't want to repeat. What's this team doing? They're running into a bush DPS first against a team that has a massive amount of AoE. So what just happened? Well, they all took Graves Q, Karma Q, Nocturne Q into the face, and then Rengar just came out and was like, hey, can I kill people? And the answer is yes, he can. He's going to hit his Ghost, which is awesome because it helps him keep up with Misfortune, and he's going to beat the ever-loving snot out of her. Easy peasy, no problem, just double kills all around. There she goes. And that's why you don't just walk in. I mean, you're Blitzcrank. Just wait for your hook to come back so you can do something like that. Graves doesn't care. There's nobody there to help kill him. Just walk away. No problem. We'll just give this red buff to somebody and move on. This is actually, and I'm going to make a point here that's somewhat unrelated to being a support, this is why buying fast is really important. If you can come out of the gate here in less than 10 seconds after the game starts, run into these bushes, or even the opponent's bushes, you can make things happen. If your whole team is on the same page doing that, your invades suddenly become so much stronger, because nobody really expects, especially in the lower tiers, the enemy team to be in one of these two bushes at like 40 seconds. It's absolutely nasty. So I'm playing Karma. We've actually passed red buff off to Graves. I think we intended to give it to Nocturne, but Graves took it because he's a selfish bastard. We're not going to call him on that. We didn't have to use Smite anyway, so Miscue will be fine on his jungle Nocturne. And so we have Karma, the worst support in the game, facing off against Blitzcrank. How is this going to go? Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to walk right into this bush and just hang out in here. Why? Because bushes are still strong. You don't want to be dependent on bushes, but you know what? Make use of a good tool when you have it. Blitz cheekily trying to be in position to grab over the wall, but because of that minion who is forward and because of the vision that I provide down here, we can actually see Blitz around that corner. Blitz is like, you know what? There's some karma in this bush. I don't like that. I'm going to try to scare her off. I'm not too scared. I know the range of his hook. I know that I will be fine. He's getting really close now. I'm staying at the maximum range. Misfortune takes a little bit of damage from this Graves red buff and this Graves auto attack. No problem. Graves is just going to get some creep score. He's actually level 2 because he took red buff, which actually gives him a big advantage over Misfortune, because he can just dive right in there, hit his Q, and Misfortune just made a big mistake. She forgot I was in the bush. This is why people love bushes, because you can do stuff like walk up to them like this when they forget you're in there. And down she goes. She would have been fine if she just remembered I was in this bush, and if this Blitzcrank, who has 3 wards, he has 3 wards, just threw a ward in this bush, or heck, went in the bush. Why is he afraid? Why is he afraid of a Karma? I'm freaking Karma. I'm level 1 Karma. What does level 1 Karma do? Throws a weak, like, 80 damage shield around. Yay! 80 damage shield. Everybody huzzah for the 80 damage. Just walk in the bush and just chase her out. You're Blitzcrank. What's she gonna do? Like, stare at you? Look at you with a mean look? No, she's not going to do anything. She's Karma. Just go in the bush. This Blitzcrank is a little too afraid. I mean, granted, there's a red buff. You don't want to draw the ire of red buff Graves. But when you're Blitzcrank, what are they going to do? If they try to be too aggressive, you can pull them into the tower and win. No biggie. Misfortune just needed to and if you're not going to do that, just throw a ward in the bush so Misfortune doesn't forget that there's a Karma who can murder her. But this Misfortune forgot. And so because bushes are overpowered when there's no wards in them, we got an early kill. Red buff certainly helped a heck of a lot. Level 2 Graves red buff. Yeah, Misfortune did not play safe enough to deal with that. The lane probably would have been fine if she had just hung back, let Blitzcrank give her some space. No, she got herself killed. So now I'm back. I'm in this bush. I don't know where Blitzcrank is. I'm a little wary, but Blitzcrank is right there. I know I'm safe. I can move forward. Blitzcrank tries to get a hook off. I'm too smart for that. A little too smart. Just staying right outside the range of his hook. I play a lot of Blitzcrank. I know how he works. I'm the mad hook genius on the Blitzcrank. I'm totally humble about that as well. Totally humble. In any case, we've got some more positioning going on here. And if you look again, I told you last time, imagine a football field down the lane. And again, I'm always in parity with my carry. If there were 10-yard markers here, I would totally always be within 10 yards horizontally, always ready to be right there with my carry in case that grab were to land on him, or in case that grab were to land on me. So again, Misfortune, I don't know why she's going into this bush. She knows it's warded. I just warded it in plain sight. She walks right up to us. We get more damages down. And she's at half health. Where did we see this before? We saw this on that vein. Come back to lane, go down to half health. There's this tendency for players, especially carries, to get a little cocky because they're at full health again. It's like, I'm at full health, I can do stuff. And then they kind of wander into situations where they lose half their health. And now where are they again? Half health. And now they can't do anything anymore because they don't have any health. Blitzcrank trying to make something happen, trying to pull over the wall. I'm not having any of that. I'm going to ward the bush. I don't know where the jungler is. I want to know where the jungler is. That Fiddlesticks. Fiddlesticks is a really nasty jungler. Hate him a lot. Meanwhile, Blitzcrank misses the hook on Graves. Graves does a lot of damage to Misfortune. And there's again a little bit of a creep score gap coming up here. Graves has a kill and an assist. I've got 3 assists. There's about a creep wave's worth of difference between them. But more importantly, Misfortune is missing out on EXP. Graves is not. And they're completely zoned. Even though they're zoned, I'm just keeping parity. And this is a little dangerous. There is a slight creep advantage for them. If I get hooked, it's dangerous. And finally, 5 minutes in, they finally drop a ward in this bush. Why didn't you ward this bush earlier? I don't know, Blitzcrank, but you could have saved Misfortune a lot of trouble. There's the grab, there's the hook. Oh no, am I in trouble? I'm Karma, I don't really care. I took some damage. Who cares? I'm Karma. Yeah, it's probably not a good thing I took that damage. If I'd hit that Q, maybe things would have been slightly better. Misfortune has used her potion, but you know what? I'm Karma. I'm going to do something that Karma loves to do here. I'm just going to walk up and be like, hey, I'm Karma. I know hook's down. Yeah, I'm in trouble. Oh, there's the flash, but I've got a shield. You're ignoring the heck out of Graves. That's perfect, because you don't have a ward in this bush, and I just used my summoner heal. And guess what? I just healed myself again with my Q. And I'm Karma. This is what Karma does. When Karma is low on health, she gets a ton of bonus ability power. I don't even have any ability power items or runes. 40 ability power. No problem. No problem. Double kill. Why? Because I baited the hell out of them. I had Summoner heal. I had Exhaust. I didn't even have to use Exhaust. Didn't even have to use Exhaust. I just shielded myself, healed myself, killed Misfortune. He killed Blitzcrank. This is actually now very, 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 very bad for this Blitzcrank Misfortune combo. Normally, this is a fairly decent combo. Very strong, very threatening, because Misfortune is pretty nasty, but that early red buff, combined with some pro-Karma baits, is doing the mad stuff to them. This is Karma. How much of this is me? How much of this is red buff? Well, to be fair, red buff is probably a lot of it. That early advantage of red buff really made up for the fact that Karma does not do anything at level 1. Karma can throw out a Q and do some damage and healing, but really, it's not that big of a deal. But hey, you get early level 2, you've got a Graves who's stronger than their carry, and you can do all sorts of cheeky things. So anyway, looking at this situation, it is dire for Misfortune. She is 19 creep score behind. She is 2 kills and 3 assists behind. She has a Vamp Scepter and no boots. And Graves has built a Giant's Belt, a Doran's Blade, a Ruby Crystal, and a Rejuvenation Beads. We can guess what he's building. That's right, this Graves is rushing Warmogs. Why? I don't know. He's just rushing Warmogs. But that's good for me because I'm Karma, and what does Karma do? Karma heals based on percentage health. That's awesome, and right now, if you'll notice, I am actually not bottom lane. Where am I? I'm running the hell mid because I'm trying to save this poor Karthus who has a Fiddlesticks and a Rise chasing after him. Don't know why he turned around, but I am able to arrive in time and save him. But I'm going to note something very important here. You have to be really, really, really careful as a support when you do this sort of thing. Because if we were not so far ahead, and even if we were, this could be very, very dangerous for Graves. If Blitz gets a hook off on him and Misfortune lays down some damage, it could be dangerous. Granted, he has built super tanky. He's not in that much danger, but in a lot of circumstances he could be. You have to be super mindful of what it is you're trying to accomplish by going somewhere else, and whether it's worth risking your carry's life. In this case, nothing bad happened because Graves did not get hooked. He was pro, dodged the hooks, no problem. He's tanky, not terribly worried, doesn't really care about that Blitzcrank overly much. I'm just going to ward. He's just going to farm. No biggie. Karthus is going for his blue. I'm going to make sure that I take a safe route, try to make sure that Blitz is not going to hook me from over here. But instead, Blitz is just going to run up here. He actually does not have a ward in this bush, but he lands a massive hook. What's going to happen? Well, I'm taking some damage, but I instantly shield myself. I throw the exhaust down on to Misfortune, and what do? I'm actually going to slow her using Blitzcrank as my tether, do a little bit of extra damage, heal myself, do more damage to this Misfortune. I'm Karma. Did I just completely survive that? No problem. I did. I barely even seem to have lost health. Blitzcrank's shield goes off. Graves gets that last final auto attack and gets another kill. Why? Because once a Karma gets ahead in lane, she becomes, like any Leona or Taric, more than happy to get grabbed by you, especially when her exhaust is still up. Why? She's just going to sit right on top of your carry and be like, hey, I've exhausted you, and now I'm bursting you with my shield and my Q and stuff. And my carry has now arrived, and you really haven't done any damage to me. That's Karma. That's Karma. I did not mean to get leashed by Blitz. I already said I was trying to avoid it. I got caught, and I made the best of it. I made the absolute best I could. And what happened? Well, we got a kill. We got a kill. It works out. Sometimes, when you're Blitzcrank, you don't want to pull the enemy support, because they're just going to murder your carry. They're just going to set things up for your carry. That's much truer with a Leona, or a Taric, or a Thresh than it is with something like a Karma or a Soraka. If you pull Soraka or Sona, and they don't have like their ultimate up, they're actually probably going to die. Sometimes you pull a Sona and she ults, and you lose, but that's just a matter of bad positioning. Your carry should not have positioned such that would have happened. Miscue's holding mid against this Fiddlesticks, who has totally been killing poor Karthus. Poor Karthus. How are things going bottom lane? Well, we're still 20 creep score ahead. We are 3 kills, 3 assists ahead. This Misfortune is really not worth a whole lot at this point. What's Graves got? Graves has got a freaking Warmogs at 10 minutes into the game. This is the tankiest Graves at 10 minutes I think I've ever seen. That's ridiculous. How much health does this Graves have? This Graves has 2100 health. How much health does Misfortune have? Misfortune has 1100 health. Graves gets pulled. I shield him. And did he actually take any damage? No, not really. Look at his health bar. Basically full. This is kind of a nightmare scenario. Absolute nightmare scenario for a Blitzcrank. Who do you pull? Pull Graves, what happens? Nothing. Pull Karma, what happens? Nothing. What do you do as Blitz? You've kind of already lost. This is a terrible situation. Blitzcrank throws the ward down. I'm thinking we can catch Blitz. Graves is thinking we can catch Misfortune. Not really good coordination there. But still, we're keeping that 10-yard boundary that we talked about. Graves gets pulled again. He's like, oh, thank you, Blitz. I'm just going to do a whole ton of damage to your Misfortune again. So what happened with that pull? Well, Graves is down about 400 health. He's healing up, though, because he's got freaking Warmogs. They're both down half health. That's not really good, but Misfortune, she does something very smart. She's like, you know what? I'm just going to clear this creep wave with my ultimate. That worked out really well for her. It actually got her a lot of creep score. It means we can't push this turret. It means that they're not going to get dove at this point. That's actually a very smart, safe play. Blitzcrank throwing that hook off into left field, trying to catch a home run that was not there. I don't even need to heal Graves at this point. He is healing over time with Warmogs. He would have been happy to have gotten grabbed right there by Blitzcrank. Why? Because he would have been right next to Misfortune. Would have been bad for her. He probably wants to get grabbed right now. Does he get grabbed? No, that would have been fantastic for him because Blitzcrank would have died. I would have shielded him. The damage would have been immense. Unfortunately, he dodged. It's a reflex you develop. There's not much you can do sometimes. I heal him a little bit because I can. And again, Miss Fortune has to hang back. Can she fight? No, she can't. I get the Q off. I take out her passive. Now she's even in more danger. She can't be cheeky and try to run into experience range. Things are going poorly for her. And what's this? My ward spy, a fiddlesticks trying to pink ward dragon? Everybody's nearby and their lanes are pushed? My word, what will happen? Welp. So much for the Scarecrow. And that's a free dragon. So again, when your carry starts out with a red buff, you can even win with a support like Karma. You can take a quick dragon, you can have Sight Stone, Philosopher's Stone, and Boots less than 10 minutes into the game. You can do very well, and eventually your team will throw anyway. Eventually. So, supports. That's how they work. If you have an advantage, how do you press the advantage? You play aggressively, but you ride that boundary, that line between you and your opponents. You have to be careful, be aware of those zones of control, like we talked about 2 weeks ago in Mondays with Monte number 8. Zones of control, very important to playing supports. If you are a support player or if you want to get good, I highly recommend going back and watching that show because it will teach you a lot. It will really help you to learn how to handle these lanes, how to know where to stand. Red buff is OP, surely, but you can still see a little bit of how to press an advantage. So those are the 2 replays we are going to look at today. We don't have as many viewers as last week because I am not giving away money this week, and I forgot to post in the general forum about today. I did post to Reddit, did not post to the general forum. That's a shame. I wasn't thinking. Old habits die hard. But if any of you do have questions, I am open to answer them. All sorts of fun stuff is going on. I will note that LOL replay is kind of broken right now. And that does pose a unique challenge for me because it means that I'm going to have trouble getting replays for next week. I might have to be fairly inventive if things come to that. If it's not fixed in the next couple of days, I will probably have to do something very special, like some sort of crazy viewer interaction thing where I try to drag you into a game, or or I can just make really bad quotes for people to make fun of me with. Taken out of context, that is fairly hilarious. You misspelled habits, though. It's not spelt like rabbits. Keep on trucking, Black Paladin. Keep on trucking. But yes, next week may be pretty crazy. It'll be Mondays with Monte 11. I don't know what it's going to be about because I don't know if I'll have any replays. If I don't have replays, it's going to be different. Maybe I'll do some craziness in solo queue. Maybe I won't. Who knows? So anyway, if you have any questions about how to play supports, any questions about how to play the game, any questions about any recent changes, there's some very interesting changes up on the PBE right now. There are big buffs to all the resistance items. Their costs are going down, probably because health itemization is a little much right now. Just a little too overpowered. A little too advantageous versus resists. So, any advice for laning with a poor support, someone that feeds, isn't in lane often? The only thing you can do when you have a bad support, I mean, first of all, it's really helpful if you have a champion like Ezreal, or Caitlyn, or Ashe, or just somebody who has range, or good wave clear. Because if you've got that range, you can still farm at a distance. And farming at a distance is all you can do when your support keeps dying and isn't there. You do probably, if your support like just walks right into the enemy team like twice in a row and is like, I don't know, I am dying. What's going on? If they're kind of like that kind of like oblivious, you do have to kind of yell at them just to play passive. Like, you explicitly tell them, I don't want to fight. Please, just let me farm. Just don't. And maybe they won't have any presence, but unless like you're like Vayne against Caitlyn, you should be okay. You should be able to farm. Just pray the jungler doesn't come and like dive you and you all die. Try to have some vision of that. There's not a whole lot you can. It's really hard to deal with a poor support. You kind of need a champion that can either farm at distance or one who can make things happen by themselves, and there aren't many of those. If your jungler comes and ganks, maybe something can happen. Otherwise, it's rough. It's always rough to be a good carry with a poor support and like good support with a poor carry. Those are hard things to handle. But with experience, you can kind of gauge the skill of your support, gauge how you can help them, gauge how, if you're the support, how you can help your carry. There was actually a game I played over the weekend that would have been fantastic for showing how to support a bad carry, but because of LoL Replay's bugs, the fact that it hasn't worked since the patch, I couldn't use that. It was a shame, because it was a really good game. Really good game. What are my sizes? I am 000. I don't exist. I'm a figment of your imagination. So those are my sizes. I'm actually just a very advanced computer rendering. There is a giant supercomputer in the room over there, which you can't see. It is currently churning out pixels galore, just to make this wonderful visage that is Monte. This perfect, impeccable Davidian statue of a person. 0, 10, 0. Thoughts on warding? How often do you think you should ward, and how much should you spend? There's a very fine line that needs to be drawn with warding. You need to ward as much as you need, and no more, no less. And it's really tricky to determine what that is. Sometimes you can do what I did in that first Thresh game, where I was able to just ward the Tri-Brush, and I was fine. The reason I was fine because I kept watching Tryndamere go top, and I was like, oh, every time I thought about warding Dragon, which is a very important ward location, not only because it means you know when they try to do Dragon, but because it's a very common gank vector. When Lux would have roamed mid, she would have come past Dragon. When Tryndamere would have ganked, a lot of junglers, especially in the higher tiers, just automatically run past Dragon if they think you haven't warded it, because that's a lot safer. It's a lot more likely that you've warded Tri-Brush when the enemy, like when you're on purple team, than that you've warded Dragon, because Tri-Brush is the usual vector for bad junglers. So it would have been very important to ward Dragon, but because I kept seeing Tryndamere top, I was able to avoid that. That saved me a lot of money. But if you don't have that knowledge, if you don't have that certainty that you keep, oh, Tryndamere was just top, I can wait. Wait, he was just top again, I can wait. Oh, Lux went top, I can wait. When you don't have that, you need to ward places like Dragon. You can't just sit on wards like I did, because when that information's not there, you need the wards. Wards are absolutely... Whenever you're not sure where the enemy jungler is, or where they could be coming from, whenever you're afraid the mid player is not mid, and you're not sure if they went back, or if they're coming your way, ward. Throw a ward at Dragon, throw a ward at Tri-Brush. Be safe. It's the best thing you can do for yourself. It saves you so much heartache when you see the jungler coming, when you know, hey, that jungler's coming to kill me, I can just back off. I know he's coming. I don't have to get myself killed. That's really important. And 75 gold is worth not giving the enemy team 300 gold plus assist money. Yeah, if the jungler really wants you dead, I mean, if you saw that Tryndamere, he was totally intent on getting that top lane. He was really, really intent. In fact, he caught Cho that first time because Cho was going into the bush to try to be... If with Cho in that bush there, Cho actually can see the jungler coming and be in a good position to get away, except the jungler was already in the bush. Cho did get away from that because Cho'Gath landed some good ruptures and got out. But it was, Cho was going into that bush in order to try to gank, and then it's like, oh, look, Tryndamere's here trying to gank as well. And Cho'Gath spent all of his time top countering Tryndamere. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, if a jungler wants you dead, they're totally going to just camp you. They'll keep coming. They'll figure out where your wards are, and you have to just ward all over the place. And when the jungler wants you dead, it gets very expensive. But you know what? If spending 225 gold on wards every 3 minutes means that every 3 minutes you don't give the enemy team 450 gold, it's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. So warding, very, very key. And it is 8:58. It is almost 9. There are no other questions at the moment. So I'm going to wrap up the show. Thank you all for watching. I hope this was helpful. Next week, I'll hopefully remember to post a thread and bump the crap out of it so that we get more viewers, so that we spread the word. Tell your friends. Tell your aunts and uncles they should be playing League of Legends. I am totally up on these social medias. If you want to follow me here on Twitch TV, please do so. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on YouTube. I archive all of the shows there when I remember to. I'm kind of lazy and bad about it, but it's up to date, up to episode 9 as of right now. Be sure to tell your friends, and thank you all very much for watching. Good night and good luck.